everyone! Since we're nearing the end of the year again, I figured I'd show off, do a sketchbook tour. Show off some of the art that I've made throughout the year, and then when I'm done with the sketchbooks, maybe branch off and show off some additional art out of them that I made throughout the year. So, starting off with this sketchbook I've had for 3 years. The front cover, there's not really anything new from last year except for the micron pen. I wrote down the sizes of my micron pens with my micron pens. So yeah, that's really about it on the front cover. There's still the like boxes, thumbnail, grayscale stuff from last year, and a lot of the stuff in here I'm going to gloss over since it was done last year, so you can always watch that video. Actually, I opened to the proper page for this year's stuff. So it's a quick reminder or quick overview. There's some figure studies, some foxes, photo I took, still life, a bunch of really random stuff. And at the very front, there's like some dinosaur drawings, but that's mostly been the primary focus of my paleo art sketchbook. So this one's really contains whatever at this point. And so this 2025 stuff, there's a still life here of a photo that I have, or I've received, of different angle, but this is the same still life. Might draw it over the winter break, actually. Figure study, one of those two skulls, I don't remember which one. Maybe it was a different day that we drew that skull, I don't fully remember, but jar, vase thing, something ever under fabric. I think I showed off me holding Caprasuchus last year. A sturgeon shaded with cross hatching, some thumbnails, perspective stuff, sweet tea can, plushies of my gaming beaver Carnotaurus toast, Helicoprion, and a red fox. A sheet or fabric hung up on a wall. Gotta finish this, I still have the photo. Some figure studies. This entire page is just gonna be more figure studies. And some fictional fish I created for a project, might implement them into a series. And this guy is also one of those fish, and work in progress, very loose sketch for that guy. But yeah, that's really about it in this sketchbook. I didn't really do a whole lot in this one. But that's not all of the art that I've made. No, I've done a lot more in my paleo art book here, or paleo art sketchbook. I have decorated the cover with some stickers. I have a couple more, might add them here, or I might save some of them for my next sketchbook. Or my next sketchbook of this style, which will also be a designated paleo art one, since it's about half filled with names, but it's not like half drawn through yet. And I will say I've done a lot of work in this, from the 16 finished species I showed off last year to 40 finished species as of now, with some work in progress ones. So some of the stuff in the front is stuff that was already shown, like these Aleoramian tyrannosaurs, Lesemsaurus fossilisuchus, Spinosaurus, Australovenator. Centausaurus is missing now, but I need to like get a good reference photo for that guy. Elaphrosaurus here is one of the newer ones, and I absolutely love it, both because the pose was challenging for me to do, and the colors. I used like, I think, 3 different color reference photos, and it all turned out pretty well. I especially like it down here. The colors just remind me a lot of leopard sharks, and so because of that, I love it. I just really like it. Also, this might not be an accurate representation of it, but scientists don't know entirely what it looks like either, since Elaphrosaurus was found without its skull. So, like, this is good guesswork, or good enough anyway. And I've got some pages that are still, like, unfinished, like Marchosaurus, Dacentrurus, Oryctodromeus is currently in progress, but he lived in burrows, so I'm trying to find a good reference. Mahajangasuchus, Madagascan crocodile. This one was a work in progress last year, but got it done since, actually just after I made that video. Looking down on it as it's swimming through the water. This was a fun angle for me to practice with. Vulpes chiujudingai, a Tibetan relative, or Tibetan ancestor of the modern Arctic fox, lived during the Pliocene about 3.5 million years ago, I believe. So, being related to the Arctic fox, the coloring was really easy to base it on. Erased both Sarcosuchus simply so I can get a better reference photo. Abelisaurids, None of these guys are particularly new, but I did draw over them with my Micron pens. So that's a different thing, and I really like the way that turned out. I feel like it really enhances the outlines of them a lot. So there are 2 finished dates now, and Titanovinator is still in quotation marks because it's not properly named still. Saraniops, a Carcharodontosaur. This guy's actually gone through 3 different redesigns from when I showed it off last year, or 2 I guess. From the design I showed off last year, which was horrendously awful, to the one in my 2020 to now dinosaur showcase. That was a better design, but I've redesigned it again. Went with this, stuck with this, and I really like it. I think this turned out pretty well. Hyenodon, a mammal, not closely related to hyenas despite the name. Schwanhanosaurus. So far the first one I've done in Prismacolor pencils, and I like it overall. The colors are based on my Jurassic World Mattel figure. And I will say that the Prismacolor pencils kind of got rid of the detail I added. Not the scaling details. The scales are about as detailed as what is here. But the shading details especially were kind of drowned over by the Prismacolor pencils. Still like the way it turned out. Tychodus, a mackerel shark. Kind of like a great white, 30 feet long. And had flat crushing teeth for shells. Lophostrophius, work in progress. I might erase this, but flip them around, so since most of my other animals on the right page come out of over here, not there. Tychodus is a clear exception to that, and I think I used a salmon shark as a photo reference for Tychodus. Sarcoprion, a ratfish, not a shark. Still a cartilaginous fish, but it's not a proper shark. In fact, it's related to Helicoprion. And chem beds, but underwater scene with Zarophosaura, Encodus, Ceratolomna, and Prognathodon. So this is fun, gotta finish it. Goniopholis, Crocodile, Allosaurus, and Ceratoseucops. Allosaurus isn't really that good shape-wise, the skull is off. And Ceratoseucops was the very first guy I did proper use a skull as reference on its head, and I've done that since. But Ceratoseucops was the first guy I did it properly with. Psyvotus, a really big shark. Technically, it's not a true shark. It lived too early, but good enough classification. Massospondylus, work in progress. I'm trying to figure out if I want to do all really well detailed scales or just some hash mark here and there. And the Deltadromeus image drawing I said I used as reference in this book is this, with Alanka, Deltadromeus, and Spinosaurus. This was specifically done as a focus on Spinosaurus because Jurassic World Rebirth released not long after I started it, and Jurassic Park 3's 24th anniversary was also in the same month, so I wanted to do Spinosaurus, and I really like the way that this guy came out. I'm actually thinking about making a 3rd version of it, but with a focus on Alanka instead. Some radiodonts. I've only got Peytoia and Anomalocaris so far. I need more radiodonts. I was gonna do Opabinia, but it's not a proper radiodont, so I can't do that guy since this is only radiodonts. Tullymonstrum. Whatever this thing is, nobody knows besides an animal, but I really like the way it came out. The colors are pretty nice, and yeah, I don't have much else to say besides what I did. I really like it. I think it's a good representation of it. Velociraptor, work in progress. I think I need to make the feathers bigger, so I might end up doing that. Kylescus, a Proceratosaur, distant relative of Tyrannosaurs. This was the first guy that I did properly. Well, first if you exclude Anomalocaris and Spinosaurus, but the first guy properly done completely in pen in terms of details, and then the shading and the colors are still colored pencil. Also, that guy's colors were also based on my Mattel figure. Pachycephalosaurus. This guy was really hard for me to draw, and I honestly might remake it. It doesn't look 100% right. Ostroraptor with a gar. Related to Velociraptor, but has evidence of eating fish. Thescelosaurus, and a small herbivore that lived with T-Rex, and I was really inspired to draw this guy because I got its tooth. So I wanted to draw it, and there it is. I think I did pretty good on this. Cantiocilium. Here's its name. Cantiocilium, a nurse shark from the Cretaceous. I also got its tooth. It's the thing on the right. The thing on the left is shark cartilage. And I really like the way this turned out. It's kind of hard to mess up on a nurse shark. And then there's a good amount of space with animals' names, but nothing in there. Zool and Spectrovinator. These are copies of drawings I made for an art sale at college, which will be featured in my college work drawing video, or college project video. These were... I liked them, so I wanted to add them in here, and I really like Spectrovinator's colors. I personally prefer its colors here than in the one that actually sold, but both are good. Another break with animals. Bahariosaurus. The same animal, but two different versions because no one really knows what it looks like. It blew up during World War II and hasn't been found since. So there's two different depictions of it, as a Noasaur and as a Megaraptorin. I went with both. I like the Megaraptorin depiction better. Nanotyrannus. He's recently come back into science as a proper genus, so I went with it. I especially liked the blue that was featured on a drawing explaining its, or vilifying its existence, so I added some blue myself. And Linhenicus, an Alvarezsaur with one finger, since Alvarezsaurs had one finger. But, yeah, that's it. That's all in my paleo art sketchbook so far. So now, yeah, in terms of additional stuff I've made throughout the year, got some bookmarks that are an art group. I made these. These two are wood. This one is paper, maybe cardstock. This is Sarcosuchus swimming through a swamp as seen from above. This is Godzilla from GXK, The New Empire, when he evolves in the Arctic. And this is Sciarodactylus, specifically based on the Sciarodactylus sequence in the Jurassic Park novel. So I made some bookmarks. I also made some books. This one I didn't, but this is the... Oh, it's backwards. But this is the Inktober book. I've already got an entire video on this, so I won't really go in depth on it. But yeah, this is my Inktober book. This one was made at the same place as these bookmarks. Different event, though. And this one I just filled with various prehistoric aquatic carnivores. It's not opening where I wanted to. There we go. I have like 3 animals left to draw. This one I made at the Cincinnati Art Center. There's a bookbinding class, and I thought that would be fun, so I took it. It was fun, and I'm filling it with Spinosaurids. But it's not like fully properly filled in yet. Like back here with Rio Havanatrix, everything in between it and Spinosaurus still needs to be added. And besides that, I did do a couple. Well, that was last year. But besides what's in my sketchbooks, I have done a couple, like, random sheets of paper drawings, but mostly I've been doing stuff in sketchbooks. This one is Anguirus, based on the 1955 film Godzilla Raids Again, specifically because that film turned 70 this April. So I wanted to draw Anguirus as kind of like a celebratory special piece, like I did with Godzilla and King Ghidorah last year for their 70th and 60th anniversaries, respectively. This is the Deltadromeus piece that I referenced when I was going through my paleo sketchbook. This one I did before the Spinosaurus one, and I really like it. Focus on Deltadromeus, Spinosaurus, and Alanka in the background. I really think it turned out fairly well, especially Deltadromeus, who was also found without its skull, similarly to Elaphrosaurus, so this might not be a very realistic depiction of it. In fact, it might be the same animal as Bahariosaurus, so it might be less accurate if Bahariosaurus is a Megaraptorin. But for now, nobody knows. And I really like the way that turned out. And then there was this still life that we did in art class. It was not college art class, but the art class I've been going for 2 years. It was, we brought in our own spooky looking objects and drew it. And this is how I came up with it. The thumbnails in my first sketchbook I showed. Some of the thumbnails were of this drawing, actually, specifically. The last 2, like, big projects that I made over the year that I want to talk about, these 2 paintings, of which I've already made individual videos about them, so you can go watch those to, like, hear my thoughts over them as I make them. But they're of Pyroraptor and Atrociraptor. They're gouache paint. Pyroraptor I made because I was inspired to from a college project, and I made Atrociraptor because I was inspired to since I liked doing Pyroraptor. I wanted to do another one. So yeah, that's these. It was a suggestion by one of my art classmates not college, the other one, same one I did the spooky still life, to go over the feathers or like shadow details with Prismacolor pencils. So I'm probably gonna end up doing that. But overall, yeah, that's these guys. I really like them a lot. And now, in a similar fashion to last year, I'm gonna end off with my materials. And not really book stuff, because I don't know what my book stuff is, but my drawing stuff especially I do. I use this Bic 0.7 mechanical pencil. I do like almost all of my drawing with my mechanical pencil, like outlines and shading. Sometimes, very rarely nowadays, but outline and feathering and scaling, all that stuff, mechanical pencil. I've also got this eraser stick. It's neat. Block eraser. About as simple as it gets. Micron pens from Hobby Lobby. Occasionally, really depends if I want to. And Prina 50-piece shading kit or art kit. Usually I only use these 5 pencils. More recently I've been trying to do less dark shading so the colors pop out more, so more often these 2 pencils, definitely these 3. And occasionally these white chalk, white graphite pencils. Not very often though, they're this low down because it's hard to sharpen them, really. But I could go over everything in this kit, but not this time anyway. But so yeah, that's this art showcase. Hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed everything. I especially liked making everything, so really curious to know what I make next year. More dinosaurs, more mammals, more figure studies. Why not? I'm interested in branching off, but anyway, yeah, this was it really. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.